Hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. What we have for you today is a quick review video of Game Week 27 combined with a preview video of Game Week 28 and also kind of Game Week 29. My thoughts for both, because unless you're free hitting or using some chips in the next two game weeks, it is an interesting sort of strategy to see how you'd navigate using just transfers and getting the most out of your team as well. So if you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. I mean, continue to like if you've been here before as well. That's always appreciated, of course. We are on the road to 60 subscribers, so it'd be great if we can hit it at some point. And let's get into the video. So we're going to start with my team from this game week. And it was pretty good, to be honest. Had a good evening last night with the Brighton and Brentford games. Ivan Toney getting a goal and a very late assist. And it is, in fact, my 11th green arrow in a row, up about 300k. And I am about 400 places below my highest rank of the whole season, which was way back in game week 8. Had a bit of a rough few weeks and then have been clawing it back ever since the World Cup. But 11 green arrows is pretty good, to be honest. And, it's not the best rank in the world, but we've still got a bit of time left before the end of the season. It was a bit of disappointment in terms of having Tarkowski score 8 points on the bench, but I've had worse benches. And to be honest, there wasn't really anyone that I would have swapped him out for, especially in the midfield. I wouldn't have swapped any of them. And, all the defenders, I was kind of like, well, they've got a good chance of getting a clean sheet, which Trippier and Shaw did. They just also got booked, so lost a point there and probably lost out on bonus points as a result. And then Trent, could have swapped in for Tarkowski, but then I've just brought in Trent, so you're not going to bring someone in just to put him on the bench. Uh, so yeah, overall pretty happy. Let's have a look at the fixtures. So as we look at the fixtures this game week, it's obviously a blank game week, and if you're looking at free hitting, my approach to the blank and using free hit chips and things like that, I think with these next two game weeks, it's good to make it into kind of like a 2 week mini league. I'm reluctant to kind of use a free hit chip for single game week players. You look at the fixtures there and you think, how many points are you realistically expecting to get from like a Chelsea midfielder, say, in one game week against Everton? You know, look at your team points from single game weeks from most weeks, and there'll be quite a few players each week that score 2 or 3 points. I think is that worth using your free hit chip for compared to double game week players, and the upside that they bring is much higher. So I think there's more value in using chips for double game weeks if you can. But of course, it depends on your team, how they're set up, and whether you've already wildcarded with the plan to free hit in game week 28, in which case go with it. And I guess the flip side of what I've just said is that I do think people make too much of a thing with the chips and you can hold them for too long. So waiting for the perfect opportunity, which might not get there, if there is a chance that you can, benefit your team lots by using it, then just using it. But just a couple of thoughts there. I think a lot of people would say that you get to the point where too few players for 28 is probably about 7 or 8 players there. So I think if you are struggling for players in this game week, then you might want to use it. But I do think it's worth bearing in mind that apart from Arsenal and Spurs fixtures and maybe Chelsea, depending on how Everton turn up and which Chelsea turn up, the actual fixtures aren't great for a lot of the teams. You've kind of got Brentford and Leicester. Well, that could go either way. Villa and Bournemouth. You maybe think Villa would edge it there, but Bournemouth have shown good signs. Wolves and Leeds. Where do you go from there? And Nottingham Forest are pretty good at home against Newcastle. So there's not necessarily a lot of fixtures you would target. Um, so I think captaincy probably would come from an Arsenal player or a Spurs player. So looking at my team and going into sort of this game week, and I know we were talking about having 7 or 8 players on in your squad. I've kind of got a few here where I've just got 7, and really looking at that team, you know, what do I do now? So I've got 2.1 in the bank and 2 free transfers. So I have got a bit of flexibility. And if I can make it work with transfers, I think that's my preferred option. Although I also have to keep, game week 29 in mind, and we'll talk about that in a bit, and aim for players who also have a double in that game week to maximise the point chances. So, like I say, at the moment, I've got 7 players playing this game week, and using those 2 transfers will take me to 9, depending on who I take out, which I think is just about enough, really. If I was to use the free hit chip, it would obviously take me to 11 players, but I don't really see the value in using it just to get 2 more single game week players, especially with the fixtures we've just kind of talked about. Um, and the quality of players I actually have already are pretty good. I've got a couple of Arsenal, got a couple of Spurs, got Trippier, Ivan Toney's in there. So they're all players that you would say will contribute. Of the players blanking who also don't double in 29, I've got Walker, Andreas, and Haaland. I actually quite like Fulham's fixtures moving forward. They've got Bournemouth, West Ham, Everton, Leeds, and Villa up to game week 33. And he's a tough price to upgrade from because he's only 4.3 million. There's not really many players that I think would have long term value. I think you could make the case for Brighton players, but Brighton are blanking this game week anyway. And actually, their fixtures in the medium term after the double don't look very good. Uh, and I also missed out on Haaland earlier in the season, so I'm reluctant to sell as he can score against anyone. So therefore, Walker looks like he's definitely got to go, which was on my mind anyway. A Chelsea defender uh, is within reach, and someone like Chilwell is a great option. Chelsea also have a double in 29 with games against Villa and Liverpool, so I'd be gaining 3 fixtures there and instead of Walker's 1 fixture over 2 game weeks, which sounds great to me. The remaining transfer means I either take someone out who plays this week or doesn't double in 29 and doesn't play this week and has a double in 29. So just to clarify, you'd be gaining a fixture either way across those 2 weeks. So if I swap either of those type of players for someone who plays now and doubles, I'll gain that fixture. So the players who would be Tarkowski or Trent. So let's say I make the transfer from Walker to Chilwell. This is how the game week would look for 29. So I actually have quite a lot of doubles in this game week. I actually believe I've got 8 double players this game week. And I quite like it. I think if I swap Tarkowski, who would I drop to the bench? This is the bench as we look. So if I swap Tarkowski for a double game week player or for game week 29, who out of the starting 11 here would I actually drop? I do think that's something that you do need to bear in mind when you're looking at transfers because at the moment Tarkowski's third on the bench and it's not great, but I've already dropped Odegaard. Um, I could swap Trent for another Chelsea defender, say, and whilst I wouldn't be gaining any fixtures in 29, the quality of fixtures would be a lot better because Chelsea have 2 home games, Trent has 2 away games, um, and I gain one in game week 28 as well. So I'd still have 8 players with doubles for the game week 29, and I also have Saka, Kane, and Haaland. And I would say those 3 players are probably the 3 best players you could have who have a single game week. So I think swapping Trent to another Chelsea defender, is maybe a good move in terms of across the board. Liverpool's fixtures, obviously, they don't look great. Man City and Chelsea away. That Chelsea game could go either way, but Chelsea have the home fixture, which I do think matters when you're looking at players on who to get in. So a lot to talk about there. Sorry if it was a bit waffly in parts. It's kind of hard to explain and get your thoughts out there. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think I should use my free hit for this game week? Me personally, I don't quite see the value. I'd rather save it for a double later on in the season and try and take advantage of that when other people have used it already. If I can just get through this game week, I am self conscious about not having another green arrow. Kind of in my head, I want to keep that streak of green arrows alive for as long as possible. If I can get through this game week in 28, then 29 looks pretty well set up as well. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got any questions, just ask. I'm always happy to give advice. and I will see you in the next one.